City, sorry, I'll start that over. So my name is Chloe Parker. I work for Pacific Crest Consultants. And today we're talking about the coastal zone, specifically the city of Los Angeles, the coastal zone within the city. All right. Pacific Crest Consultants has obtained permits and approvals for discretionary requests for thousands of clients in Los Angeles for 40 plus years. We do residential, commercial, and industrial. And in the last decade or so, we've expanded our services to include cities and counties from San Diego all the way up to Santa Barbara. Although, again, specifically, this presentation is going to be about City of Los Angeles because that's what I specialize in. So my name's Chloe. I am a director at PCC. I've been working for 7 years with experience in entitlements, specifically in the City of Los Angeles. I have obtained zoning relief, DRB approvals, CUPs, and CDPs for hundreds of clients. And we're going to specifically talk about the coastal cases today. Okay, so a couple things you need to know before you can file a coastal case. Whether you are in the single permit or dual permit jurisdiction of the coastal zone, that will affect the kind of case you can file. Another thing you need to know is if you're within the Venice specific plan. Specifically, if you're in the Venice specific plan, you need to know about 2 types of cases. The first is a Venice sign-off. That is for any small scale case, basically. You cannot file a Venice sign-off if you're in the Walk Street. It needs to be for any sort of minor remodel or addition and cannot include any discretionary requests. The other type of case, if you don't qualify for a Venice sign-off, would be a specific plan project permit compliance case. The last thing you need to know before you can file a case is whether you are subject to MELO. So if you are demoing a existing house in the coastal zone, then you are subject to MELO, which is basically the city's way of checking to see if, or I guess ensuring that affordable housing isn't being removed. So 3 ways you can prove that you are not removing affordable housing is if the house is currently owner occupied, if it has been vacant for 1 year and you prove that through like utilities, or if it has been rented or leased, but it was deemed at not an affordable rate. All right, so the 3 main type of cases that we're going to talk about today are coastal development permits, CDPs, coastal exemption, CEX, and categorical exclusion. I'll be using the acronyms a lot. I'll try to do the full if that's a little clearer, because whoever picked the names of these was not very kind because it's a lot of the same letters. As you can see on the little diagram, a coastal development permit is kind of all encompassing. Pretty much any type of project can file for a CDP. And then there's a more limited type of project that can be a CEX or a CATX, although there is some overlap where a project could both file for a CATX and a CEX. So we're going to talk about that as we move along. All right. So the first one we're talking about is a coastal exemption, so a CEX. To qualify for a CEX, you need to be within the single permit jurisdiction. So no dual permits. The project needs to be a remodel involving less than a 50% change to an existing. It cannot approve the addition, demo, removal, or conversion of 1 or more whole primary residence guest rooms, etc. It cannot involve any discretionary requests, and it cannot involve piles or caissons holding up an accessory structure like pools. So a common type of project that a CEX is a pool, as long as it's not being held up by piles or caissons. It could be a addition or a minor remodel. Things of that nature can be a CEX. So the timeline for CEX, you need to file a building permit first, and then you can file a CEX. So I know that's not the case for all city planning cases, but for a CEX, you do need that building permit number. Once you have the building permit number, then you can file the CEX with the public counter. Once planning, accepts that, they ship the package off to the California Coastal Commission. And from the date the California Coastal Commission receives the package, they have a 20 working day appeal period. So in total, this ends up being about 6 weeks from submitting to the public counter, just based on, how long it takes planning to get it over to Coastal, how long it takes for Coastal to confirm that they're not appealing the project, about 6 weeks. So if your project does require a Venice sign-off, so because you're, in the Venice specific plan and also in single permit jurisdiction. You can file for a VSO before filing for building permits, so it won't affect the CEX timeline at all. And you can see in the top right corner, I have the filing fees listed. So these are, as always, subject to change, but right now this is how much city planning is charging you to file a CEX, just shy of $2,000. And if you need a Venice Sign-off, it's an additional $3,600 or so dollars. So that's the CEX. Oops. There you go. So the next project we're going to talk about is a CATX. So to file a CATX, you need to be within the CATX zone. This is primarily in the Pacific Palisades area. And a CATX can approve work done on a single family dwelling up to and including the demo of an existing and construction of new. However, I should note that if you're demoing the existing and not just doing a major remodel, you will be subject to MELO to prove that you're not demoing any affordable housing. So a CATX will not approve any accessory structures if they're not necessary for the construction of the house. So no pools, no retaining walls, unless you can prove that that retaining wall is necessary to hold up the house, no pergolas, nothing like that. And it cannot have any discretionary requests. So if you need, a haul route, or if you want reduced side yard setbacks or an overnight fence, you cannot file a CATX. It can only be by right construction. So the timeline for a CATX, similar to the CEX, the building permit needs to be filed first. We need that building permit number to be able to file a CATX with the public counter. Once you file the CATX with the planning public counter, they process it, they ship it to the California Coastal Commission. There is a 20 working day appeal period from the date CCC receives that package. This might be something familiar because it is very similar to a CEX. So if you are subject to MELO, however, this is where we diverge a little bit. Los Angeles City Housing will be concurrently reviewing while the California Coastal Commission is reviewing the package as well. So we can't submit to housing until we have that case number with the planning public counter. But once we have the case number, then housing gets the case, they review for MELO. Right now, LAHD is taking about 3 to 4 months to determine. So once they issue their letter that there is no affordable housing, then you're able to take care of those final clearances. So total without MELO for a CATX is about 6 weeks again. Total with MELO is going to be closer to 3 to 4 months. And again, the filing fees are up there in the top right-hand corner. So just shy of $2,000 for just a CATX. And with a MELO, it's an additional about $5,000. All right, so finally, the coastal development permits. So any case can be filed as a coastal development permit, but as you'll see, both in the filing fees and the timeline, it is significantly longer and more expensive to file a CDP. So you are, whenever possible, going to want to try to file a CATX or a CEX. So a CDP, you don't need to wait for the building permits. You can file those ahead of time. And actually, that's often what you do. You file for a CDP before you file for the building permits, because you want to wait to see if you're going to get this discretionary or this approval before committing to your building permits. So right now, city planning is taking about 8 to 12 months from filing to schedule for a hearing. That is unfortunately not or maybe fortunately if they get faster one of these days, but it is not a code sanctioned timeline. That is just kind of how long things are taking right now based on our experience. There will be a public hearing where your neighbors within a 300-foot radius get notified and are able to come and complain about the project if they're not a fan of the project. After the hearing, a letter of determination will be issued. Right now, planning is taking about 2 to 3 months to issue that letter of determination. That again is not a firm timeline, that's just kind of based on our experience right now, how long it's taking them to write and publish. Once it's published, this one is an official time frame. There's a 15-day appeal period. At the end of that appeal period, the California Coastal Commission gets sent the package, and they have an additional 30 working day appeal period from the date they receive the LOD to appeal or raise any issues with city planning. If you're in the single permit jurisdiction, then you're done. You've got your approval. You're good to go. If you're in dual permit jurisdiction, however, you have to file an additional case with the California Coastal Commission, and they also call it a CDP. So you file a California Coastal Commission coastal development permit. So luckily they are a little faster than city planning right now. So it takes about 3 to 4 months from filing for CCC to schedule a hearing. At that hearing, you'll receive your approval, and then that is when you are finally done with the coastal process. So if you're in single jurisdiction, that total timeline is looking about 12 to 16 months. If you're in dual jurisdiction, it's about 14 to 20 months. And you can see the fees are in the upper right-hand corner. So just a CDP is about $16,000. A CDP plus mellow, so that's if you're demoing a house, that's going to be about $18,000. A CDP plus SPP, so that's if you are in the Venice coastal zone or Venice specific plan, sorry, it's going to be about $20,000. And a CDP plus SPP plus MEL, mellow case, is about 21,000. So that's if you are in the Venice coastal zone or Venice specific plan and also demoing a house. So, there we go. Okay, so there is a special circumstances. So right now you can combine a CADX and a CEX. However, they can't be filed concurrently. So if you want to, a popular case that we have seen recently is if you want to do work to a house, again, whether it's demo existing and build a new or a major remodel, but you also want a pool. What you would have to do to avoid being forced to file a coastal development permit is to do this kind of step-by-step process. So you would first need to file your building permits for the CEX, like for the pool. Once you get that building permit number, you would then file the CEX with city planning, get approval for the CEX, and then you would have to pull that building permit. Once that building permit is pulled, then you can file the building permit for the house. And then you can file the CADX and then, get approval for that. So it is annoying that you can't do the two concurrently. That's just how it is. If you try to do them both at the same time, they make you file a CDP. But even kind of staggering these two cases, you can see it's less expensive and less time consuming than doing a full CDP. So that is something we're able to do now. I have been told by the planning public counter that they're not sure Coastal is going to always let us do that. But as of right now, they have not been saying anything. So we've been able to get projects approved in this CADX and CEX kind of one after the other form. You can't swap them, or I mean, you like theoretically could swap them, but it is more difficult if you want to do the house first, because to be able to file a CEX for a pool, you would need to have your C of O issued for that house. So you'd have to go through the whole process of actually building the house, and then you could do the pool. Whereas this way, you would be able to do construction of everything pretty much at the same time. All right, so that's it. Any questions?
This was great. Thank you so much.
Sure, no problem. It's a lot of acronyms, I know, so I was trying to. Okay, I have a question. Sure. So single versus dual jurisdiction. So this is a I guess something that's determined that's outside of kind of our control. So I usually just use Zemus, the website, Zemus .lacity.com or .org, I think. And it'll tell you whether California has decided that you're in single versus dual jurisdiction. Typically, dual jurisdiction is within, a couple miles of the coast. So if you're very close to the ocean, they're going to say you're in dual jurisdiction. And anything farther inland is single jurisdiction. And dual jurisdiction basically just means that the California Coastal Commission has decided that they want kind of an extra look at your project because they've decided you are, extra close to the ocean, which they're trying to, and the coast, which they're trying to preserve. And so they want to make sure they have a chance to really look at your project. And as you can see, based on the PowerPoint, it does limit what you're allowed to do if you're in dual jurisdiction, whereas single jurisdiction, there are more options for you. Can we get a CEX to add a second story? Theoretically, I think you could. There wouldn't be an issue with that. It would, as long as you were still adhering to not demoing or impacting more than 50% of the exterior. So I don't think you could do a full second story probably, because then you would be removing the entire roof. But you can, for a small second story addition, I think that would be fine. It's definitely dependent on how the project is designed, and what planning has to say about that, but theoretically that should be okay. I can see too, if I don't know how familiar people are with Zemus, if I can try to bring it up. Hold on, let me see if I can. Let me see. Yeah, so this is just what Zemus looks like. I just picked a random address in the coastal zones. So if you're on the side over here, you go down to additional, and then it'll show you. So like this one is in the Calvo exclusion area, which means it's in the CATEX area, and it's single permit jurisdiction. Oops, sorry. And then I believe if you go down to planning and zoning, you can see we're in the Venice coastal zone. So this one would have to either be a VSO or an SPP, depending on the project. And then it's single permit jurisdiction. So it could be, a CEX. Now let's see if I can get one that's dual, so you can see what it looks like. Yeah, so this one is, you can see down here, it shows additional dual permit jurisdiction. So that's where you can find it. Okay, there's another question. Yes, I believe you would be subject to mellow. I don't know that the being informally rented out, if you would have to be subject to if they would determine that you were removing affordable housing, but because you are adding a new dwelling unit in the ADU, I believe you would have to go through the mellow process. Sure. Well, I'm happy to answer more questions, but if you guys also think of questions down the line too, I can just put my email in the chat, I think. It's chloe@pccla.com, so feel free to reach out.
Chloe, I think there is another question in the chat from Jennifer.
Oh, okay. If the project is both single and dual, you are unfortunately subject to dual jurisdiction rules. So we've had projects in the past where just like a teeny tiny corner of the site was dual per the map that is posted on Zemus, but you still have to adhere to the dual jurisdiction requirements.